Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome. We are the Muppets. Um, we are back on Interesting AF. And we are your hosts, Linda and Elaine. We come on here to chat about the different things that we're interested in, want to be interested in, and how we talk and connect to people. So, welcome. And if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We have multiple episodes, and you can go back and kind of listen to our evolution, as it were, on here. But today, we're going to talk about something that I think a lot of people have talked about. And as we were kind of looking this concept up as an episode, we saw that this people have been talking about this for quite a long time. It's not new, um, but it's something that I think after the years we've had has become more important. So it's the concept of the third place. And I don't know, Elaine, if you want to go into, where the term came from, and then we could just like delve into the conversation because as we were prepping for this episode, we were wondering, did we ever have a third place? Are we
Yeah.
having a third place? How did it change? How's life changed? Makes it change for you? So,
Yeah. The third place was first coined by a sociologist named Ray Oldenburg. He wrote a book called The Great Good Place. And for those of you who have listened to us before, we've probably already mentioned that Linda and I love the show, The Good Place. So you will probably hear references of that. And so clearly, when I see a title like that, that is what I think of. um, and when we talk about a third place or the third place, there are a couple of like key points that describe a third place. It's a place where you can socialize and interact with others that isn't your home and isn't your workplace. Some examples of that include coffee shops, bars, community centers, places you may work out, hair salons, libraries, farmers markets. Um, and it creates a sense of community that, again, isn't made up of that insulated and kind of provided for you through your family or through your work. So yeah, it seems like there's a lot of recent conversation about this, right? Coming out of a global pandemic, which um, had a lot of lockdowns and uncertainty and fear of being around other people. It seems like the third place is kind of disappearing, and hopefully it's something that will be coming back because it's not a concept I was aware of in my 20s or even in my early 30s, but I certainly know I have had third places in the past. I just never would have thought of it that way. And now, as Linda mentioned, like in thinking about like, oh, do we have a third? Like, do you have a third place? Do I have a third place? Like, maybe after this, we'll go out of our way to like find that new third place because it's so important. And I think in some of the conversations we've had previously, in terms of like walking into a room of people you don't know and how to be interesting or be interested in what other people are saying, like this is a great example of how to use some of those things that we've talked about in the past, but in a little bit of a more relaxed setting, like a pub, like a library. So
like a coffee shop. And I think, it's the concept of putting yourself in an entirely new environment and putting yourself beyond the role that you see yourself at home, which could be mother, wife, son, daughter, whatever kind of image you are. Then at work, as you're an employee. And then in a coffee shop, you're entirely kind of your own. In a third place, for example, you'd be like another version of yourself, not to not to quote The Good Place, but um I think the concept of having different people and different locations that you identify with and kind of create people that you can go to as many times as in different ways and connect to them in different ways. I think that's the concept. And I think a lot of people given I think in the, like we talked about this before, like different countries have different concepts of this,
Mhm.
right? Like for example, in the Middle East, there's like coffee places, third places, like coffee, but those are usually only for men. And so
Mm.
women actually go to each other's houses.
Mm.
And so houses become the third place, but it's not yours. It's like it becomes
Right.
like a different, like even if you're from that house, like it actually technically becomes the third place. So it's a very weird, really depends on like the countries. Like for example, in Europe, obviously they have coffee shops, they have like all these things, but in the US it's radically different. I think
Very
people
different.
used to have, libraries. Libraries used to be such a big third place. I remember now that like it's jogging my memory because I am old. Like there's a Starbucks like in the area where I lived, and it was like I think it was one of the busiest ones on like in Maryland because it was like it's in a thoroughfare, and
Mm.
that was my third place. I used to go there to study on weekends. Um and that now that I think about it, that was my third place because we were chatting if a club would be a third place, and that decidedly did not make it in the cut because conversations need to be had.
Impossible.
Impossible in clubs.
Yes.
No matter how loud you are, and I tried. Really did.
And you wake up with party girl voice every morning like
Yep,
I still
party
have
girl
from whatever
voice.
sinus infection my child gave me.
By the
Yeah.
way, my ENT told me sell my children because there's too many sinus
Yeah,
infections.
because otherwise, like, you're just gonna be like this for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Um, no, conversation is such an important part of, like, the definition of a third place because it's about that creating that sense of community, and one of the things that, um, is one of them that is completely lost and is kind of like when I hear a third place, of course, I picture bistros in Europe as one of the third places, but another place that I pictured in my head when we started talking about this and when I was looking some of this stuff up, this actually came up too, were stoops. Like you watch movies from back in the day in like
Right.
Brooklyn, right? And like and as an Italian, all I picture are like a bunch of old Italian men outside on a stoop or, outside of a meat shop, right? Like you picture Sopranos or whatever you want to picture. But like that is a third place. You're out there, you're sitting on the stoop. You're seeing people as they go by. If it's the same people time and time again, maybe they stop and they start talking to you and you start meeting people from within your community and your neighborhood. It can be, a yoga studio, the gym that you go to in high school, like the gym was the local Y gym was like the place where you just went. And some of my best guy friends from high school and into college, I met there. Um, and then, of course, while living in downtown DC, there were a bar or two where they were definitely my third place. I knew the bartenders. Um, Now going on 20 years, some of those bartenders I still know at some of those places. So yeah, I think it's certainly possible to have more than one. I think it's also helpful to go seek one if you feel like maybe you haven't been as active in hobbies, right? Like you said, like libraries, like maybe there's a book club that comes out of that. If you go to the farmer's market or, if you live in a place where there's an HOA and a community set up there, are there different clubs you can join? um, go to your public golf course in the spring and summer, or if you live in a place that has lovely weather year round, like you can meet people that way. So I think there's no limit to what the third place can be as long as it inspires conversation, the opportunity to meet people who aren't already in your circle are there, and it builds a sense of community.
And you like it.
And you
Like
like it, of course. Don't do it if you don't like
but
it.
I think
Absolutely.
that's the concept. Like example, like you know me, I love to read. And like there's a lot of discourse around like different books that are happening.
Yep.
And I don't know if I've talked about this. I have this rule that if I can't get past 50 pages in a book,
Mhm.
I'm done. Like
It's
I will
good.
not
Why
go
invest the
past it.
time if you can't grab me in the first couple chapters? I
And
get
there's a
it.
book, and there's a book called James that is like has made the rounds. Like everybody um has made the round. And written by Percival Everett, and it's been part of the book clubs. Everybody's been talking about it. It's all of this. And it's basically a retelling of Huckleberry Finn
Oh, yes. I've
through
heard
Jim's
about this.
perspective.
Yes.
I hated it. I could not get past the first 50 pages of that. And I am pretentious as fuck, people. Like pretentious. Like I took my 4-year-olds to like an impressionist. Like I take them to museums, like art museums on the regular. I am trying to raise the next generation of pretentious people. And for the love of me, could not get into this book. And everybody's like, it's amazing. It changed my mind. And I'm like, I think he's making fun of you. But yeah, it felt like a whole troll. And I was like, I can't do this. But like,
Yeah.
that's the concept. Like, I was like, I'm going to try to read this book. And then I was like, then don't. Like, and that's the same concept, I think, with the third place. Like, because when you start just, I think what we've gotten to also in a society is not trying shit out anymore. Not going, hey, I'm going to go to this coffee shop. And then if I don't like it, I'm done. And that's not how
Yeah.
that works. Like, it's not how it works. Like, you have
Right.
to, maybe you don't like coffee. Maybe you go to a bar instead. Maybe
Right.
you,
Or you
you
don't
know,
drink. You go to a farmer's market. You don't cook. You go like there's a million places you could go. And also, like when we say community, it doesn't have to be 20 people. It can be one other person that you just vibed with, right?
yeah.
Like it's just a community outside of the two communities that are like already there for us, home and work. And I think what's really interesting, what this makes me think of is where Linda and I work, we did one of those discovery insights where you learn like what your energy colors are, right? Like what combo you are, what you lead with, what you do. And like, no surprise, I lead with like 1,000% yellow energy. But I think what
And I
was the
wonder which one I lead with.
what was most fascinating to me was you get through like all the work stuff and you sit down with all your colleagues in your office and you do this all together and it's super interesting. But what I found fascinating was you get like 3/4 of the way through this booklet that they've printed out for you, and you get to the home life, and your colors will flip on you. Not completely invert, but like other colors will lead at home that don't necessarily, or your colors could stay the same between home and work, but mine shifted and I led with a completely different color. And I had more of a balance of my colors at home than I do in a work setting. I would be very interested to know how that changes. This is like
Hmm.
that the INTJ type quiz, it just in color form, right? Um, I would be very curious to know like how that changes then in like a third place type setting because it's like you
Yeah.
said, it's another opportunity to express a different version of yourself and it doesn't have to be that way, but like you're kind of forced out of a comfort zone in terms of a community that's already provided for you. Listen, I'm someone where like I will take myself out on a date every night if I could. Like I love going and just sitting in a bar and grabbing a drink, bringing my Kindle or whatever, or going out to dinner by myself. I lived in Germany for 3 months by myself. I took myself out to dinner. I traveled by myself all the time. I fucking loved it. I go to the movies by myself. If it's a movie that no one, you can't talk during the movies anyway. Like if it's a movie that
Best.
I know that like my husband doesn't want to see, like fuck it, I'll just go. Um, so, it,
If
it
you
does give you an opportunity to go out and be a different version of yourself.
and if you don't, if you take only one piece of advice from us from this episode is go to a movie by yourself. Do it.
Oh,
It is you can get whatever the fuck snacks you want. You can
it's
you can
liberating.
sit as close or in the middle or in the back. Like, it doesn't fucking matter, and it's
We have
magnificent.
I'm a Alamo Drafthouse, like, loyalist because it's reserved seats, it's big cushy seats, and they have the best food in terms of, like, bar movie food, and they have, like, a ton of options for drinks. It was the first place I could ever go and watch a movie and order a glass of wine. Now that's more of a thing that happens, AMC does it, whatever other companies are still out there,
I
they
Pick
all do it.
is the one
Yeah,
that's near me.
we've got, like, I Look or whatever up the street now too, or whatever it's called, but, yeah, they all do it now, but Alamo Drafthouse to me was the game changer. So I'm like but like I agree. Go to the movies by yourself, but also like go to the library or go find a workout class that you like or go sit at a coffee shop by yourself. You know, um, there's a coffee shop near us that also becomes a brewery at night, and they throw events all the time. They do yoga on the rooftop, like, during the spring and summer every other month. I've gone to that a couple times, and you meet people in your town, like, it's it's great. Like, it's not what I would consider my 3rd place because I don't go there very often, but when I do, I always run into people I know, and it's great.
And I would, I would be we the two of us would be remiss to say that it's okay if this changes during periods of your life. Like
Oh,
right
yeah.
now, clearly we have small children, and the amount of I think for like now, like again talking about it and going, I think now date night has become my third place, and
Ooh.
my husband is the other person I go with on that. But it's kind of like, in a way, that's the
Yeah,
only regular thing I do. Yes, it happens to be with another person that I know anyway, but we become different versions of ourselves that are not focused on parenting.
right.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I don't know if that but that probably doesn't, immediately correlate, but there's other people if you start going to the same place on date night. Like I think it's about taking yourself out of where you're living, how you're talking to people every day, because like Elaine said, you are a different version of yourself
Right.
as you go in different places. So I think it's just try different things, and I think for as online as we are, we forget that there's so much shit to do. So many people are doing so much. And it's people do you remember that website Meetup? The Meetup or
Yes.
something? And there were different things that you could like meet up, like groups would meet up. I
Yeah.
don't know if that still exists, but I thought
Doubt it.
that was great. And apparently right now, which as I saw that people are really into running clubs now.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
running
that's
clubs.
always been
It's
a
always
thing.
been a thing, but like, it's apparently being rolled out more often now, and
Yeah.
people are like more running and doing things, but that's the concept, right? Pick an activity that you really like. And even if you don't know that, you know what? Ask ChatGPT. Go, hey, yeah, like, are there activities in my town that I can do? What do you suggest? I like XYZ. I like reading. I like walking. And
I
then
like
ask it.
painting, I like
I paint, yeah, like I like
puzzles,
paint,
whatever.
whatever it is. And I think, don't limit yourself. And always, if you want to ask us, and
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
email, from our beds as our kids are coughing in our faces, but that's fine.
Did right down our
We're not,
throats
we're
and in
not
our
bitter.
eyeballs.
We're not
No,
bitter
not at all.
at all.
We're totally healthy,
Totally.
as I still have party girl voice from 10 days ago.
Well,
Um,
not many of us can hang out at wineries for our birthdays.
it's true. This is a big one. This
That
is a
was
big
your
one,
third
y'all.
place. That was your third place.
Wineries are definitely my 3rd place.
If
That's
I
definitely a
lived
3rd place for me.
if I lived in California,
Oh, ugh.
the
If I
beach would
lived
be
getting
my
out there,
third
no one would
place.
ever see me again. I'd be like, "Y'all gotta come to me. Fuck all y'all." Like, "This place is great. I'm never leaving. The food's insane, the wine's insane, the people are awesome. Like, get the fuck out."
You know who, and I've never seen, I don't really see famous people. Like, I never see famous people. I just don't. And I only ever saw Leanne Rhymes at a fucking
Oh,
Napa wine. I don't even remember. It was like I think it was in Healdsburg. There was my bet. One of my
ooh,
really good friends
Galesburg's
lives
great.
there, and she lives there. And I saw Leanne Rhymes at a winery
Oh,
around
nice.
there, and I'm like, why is Leanne Rhymes here? And why
Because
is
it's
she?
all the best out there.
Yeah,
It's
but
the best.
also like it was just so random.
So many musicians have wineries now and vineyards now, though. Like, so many of them have just so much fuck you money that they're like, "Yeah, I'll buy a vineyard. Whatever." Zach
Oh,
Brown has one.
God bless.
Yeah. Like, fucking Post Malone has one. Post Malone makes
His
a
wine is
rosé that
good.
is fucking great.
Great.
Maisonneuf, très bien. Mwah.
Mwah.
Mwah, mwah, mwah,
So
mwah,
good.
mwah. Yeah. Wait,
Is that the only
wait.
one he makes?
Yeah, it's just that one rosé out of Provence, which is just like fucking killer. And
So
speaking
good.
of France and Europe, a lot of times in the conversation about the third place, it's like Europe's so much better at the third place than we are. They just
They
are.
are.
And I think some of that though is like how like our people Americans get a lot of grief when they're like, "You guys have never left your own country." And I'm like, yeah, I sure, but do you have any idea how fucking big our country is?
That's
Like
right.
New England, which is 6 states, 6 or 7. Oof, I should know. Wait, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire. Yeah, 6. Um, as someone who's from
Don't
New
ask
England, I
me.
should know that number off the top of my head. Um, so don't at me on that one. I'm just speaking too quickly. But anyway, like the size of New England is essentially like the same population as the entire country of Italy or France, or, like 6 states are the entire population of one country in Europe. And so, and those are very tightly packed states. When you get further out west, there is fucking nothing. So in countries like Italy or France or Germany, where there are, or any other European country, there are several major cities. And what I think Europe absolutely does better is even in the small rural towns, there are those options for those third places. And yes, in rural towns in the US, there are too, but you may have to drive like an hour
A
to get
lot.
to it. And in Spain or in Croatia, like the third places are typically like it's tiny little rural towns, but everything is in the same place because
Yeah.
that's how they build old European towns. And I fucking love it. But so there's a reason for why there are several reasons why Europeans are better at it. They're also just better at prioritizing that type of stuff than we are, which I know Linda has a
Well,
great point about this.
that's because of their social system, right? So they're
Oh
more
yeah,
of a community-based
totally.
society than an individualistic.
But
Again, we
also like
listen and we don't judge. We're not judging. It's just what it
no,
is.
no. But we also, I think your point that the the difference in how Americans and Europeans view work is
Yeah.
also they're just much better. I mean, if anyone's been in Italy when it hits 5 o'clock in the evening, like you better have a seat at a bar with an Aperol spritz already, or you're gonna run. Then you ain't gonna get a seat because like everybody leaves work, they go to their third place, and they go get their Aperol spritz, and I fucking love it. I love it. But I think it's just set up also again like we live to work, they work to live. I like to try to find that balance of I'd rather work so I can live well. um, but I think there are several reasons why Europe's better at it than we are, but like I would definitely like to consciously make more of an effort to find a third place. Although I think when you asked the question, and I don't know that I could think of it, I think I did come up with what my third place is.
Which
And
is?
it does involve my husband. It's Grateful Dead shows.
Yeah.
That's our
Oh,
third place
yeah, that
for
is true.
sure.
That's your third place.
Like without question. So my husband and I have been to over I think I did the math. We've definitely been to over 40 great like iterations of the Grateful Dead, whether it's Dead and Company, whether it's Fare Thee Well, whether it's Further or Bobby and Phil, or like all the different iterations of. And for those of you who are not Deadheads, they will never ever ever perform under the moniker the Grateful Dead because the living members of the Grateful Dead believe that if Jerry Garcia is not around, they are not the Grateful Dead. So that's why they every time there's new people added or they do a different iteration of it, there's a different name for it. So anyway,
It's not like Menudo where like they
you just swap
change.
people in and out, right? No, that's not how the Grateful Dead work. But we've been to
Is
over
that
40.
sacrilege to like put those
Right?
two together?
No, never,
Okay,
never,
just checking.
never. It's music, and they like true musicians go and listen to each other's music just to hear what's out there, right? Um,
So
but
40 shows. You've been to
we've
40
been to
40
over
or
40 shows. We have literally, there's this like weird force at Grateful Dead shows that just kind of like bring people together. We have run into the same people at several shows, including ones that we've gone to in Mexico, in fucking Colorado, in Las Vegas. Like we will run into people. We used to go to a music festival outside of Charlottesville, Virginia every year called Lock-In, which is, I miss it terribly, has not come back since COVID. And there's tens of thousands of people there. And 2 years in a row, it's an open field. There's no assigned seating. You just plop your seat down and you sit. For 2 years in a row, we ended up sitting next to the same people who do not live anywhere near us. We do not know them. We did not know them before. We haven't seen them since. But like, it's just this like weird thing. Every time we go to a show in Virginia, we end up parking near this older couple and their very good friend. We've seen them 4 times. We've been 2 or 3 cars away from them for 4 years. We sat a
That's
row in front of them
insane.
last year. I have pictures with them since 2017. Like,
That's insane.
yes. And every time we see each other, we're always like, huh, we did it again. Like, we don't plan with these people. One of these guys lives in Chicago.
That's
And so it's just like,
bananas.
it's fucking bananas. But it's like Deadheads have stories like that since 1965 when they started as a band.
Yeah.
And so that to me is probably the best third place because we truly feel like a part of a community when we go to those shows. And I could say
Yeah.
concerts because we love concerts and we love live music, but specifically like Grateful Dead concerts and Grateful Dead inspired concerts would be definitely be our third place these days.
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah. So
Um
that's fine.
well, I mean, especially like you meet, it's your
Yeah,
community, right? So
totally.
it feels like with, the Grateful Dead and Deadheads and those fans that kind of follow that seems like it's
Oh, yeah.
not a cohesive group, but it seems like to be a group. And so people like move. And I think that's the thing. Like thinking about it that way doesn't mean you see these people every week,
Nope.
right? Like you're part of the community online, you're part of the community. And I think rather than seeing like online or Instagram or those things as like a replacement, it's an addition to the third
Yes.
place, right? Like the
Yes.
comments, okay, also it must be said, the comment section is not your third place.
No. No.
Please stop being an asshole in the comment section. And that's not your third place. It's
Nothing
never
involving a
going
screen is your third place.
it
I'm
can
gonna
be
throw
an
that one out there.
addition to it,
Sure.
but
Sure.
it is not your third place. Your third place has to be physical. And I will, whatever updates they do to the third place as we go, it has to be a place
Yes, a place that is not in your home
or your
or
work
work
or your phone.
or your phone. You know what? You
Um,
know what I'll do? On the Instagram page, I will include a couple of pictures of me with those guys that I keep running into at all the Dead shows. I'll put a
l-
couple of them up there.
love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Let's do
Yeah.
that. Yeah, but I think in many ways our society, keeps moving forward in different ways and we're not adapting. I think COVID really, really, and
Yeah.
I don't think as a collective we are realizing the effects of COVID because it
Mm-mm.
was so traumatizing and
Still is.
our brain is doing exactly what it is built to do, and that's to keep you safe from trauma.
Survive.
Yeah, and you guys, that was traumatic. People, I'm not supposed to say guys. People. Let's just be okay with the fact that that was horrible. That was
Everyone.
that was collective trauma. We still haven't gotten over it. We will never get over it.
Mm-mm.
And for those of us who went through major life transitions, having kids, losing people,
Mhm.
um, losing jobs, losing houses, it was such a shift that it's okay if you had a third place before COVID and now you don't. It's not your fault,
No, no.
but it is in your hands to
Mhm.
find one in order to expand your horizons, in order to think of different things, in order to wonder different things. And I think that in a lot of ways we still won't understand the full impact of what COVID has done to our society until many, many, many years from now.
You know what I
Um,
there's a study that came out in the last couple years about, they're studying how trauma gets handed down, by studying teeth.
yes.
It's a fascinating, fascinating paper, and so, like, when you say, like, we won't know for generations to come, like, study our teeth. What did COVID do to our teeth, y'all? What did they
Yeah.
do?
What
What did it
what
do?
did it do to our teeth? Um, but one of the things that they say is, I don't know if you saw. It's a study somewhere that I also have to find that women, um, we have our eggs. We are born with the eggs that we
Yes.
have for our lives. So we don't. It's not like men where they create sperm every time. Women are born with a finite number of eggs that they, you know, release and kind of grow and release every cycle, and we grow those in the womb. So
Mhm.
when women are, when girls and women are being formed in the womb, we're creating those eggs, right? So the thing is, this is very mind blowing, is that you're creating it in the womb of your mother, which the egg that becomes you eventually was created in the womb of your grandmother.
Woof.
And so
Whoa.
if if your grandmother, for example, went through a shit ton of trauma, like food
Yeah.
insecurity, war, famine, whatever, and she was dealing with that when she was
That
pregnant.
explains so much.
Doesn't it though?
Oh my god. Guys, the look on my face.
Doesn't
Wow.
it?
Mind blown emoji.
So when people say intergenerational trauma, it's an actual thing because we do not, so it's something called epigenetics. So essentially the concept of,
Ooh, it's a good word.
like, your genetics are being formed in, like, much much earlier. Like, I'll give you the exact term, so, like, it's like the definition. It's basically, epigenetics is the study of environmental factors and behavior that alters the way genes function without changing our DNA sequence. So essentially, your grandmother is, and this affects men and women because we come from an embryo that,
Right,
what is made with sperm and egg, in
right.
case you haven't googled that. So an egg is always there, but it was created generations ago almost, right? Like the epigenetics of
Wow.
it is much deeper than we think.
Yeah,
And like the concept of, why certain cancers like shift and grow and during different times, a
interesting.
lot of scientists think it comes from epigenetics because we start at some point, people start smoking or the microplastics start being an issue,
Yep,
and they go, that starts affecting our genetics. And so it's just very interesting in how all these things happen. And I don't know how this rant started, but here we are.
doesn't matter.
Epigenetics
It's great.
is the word of
It's
the day.
fascinating. It's very interesting, which is the only reason we're here.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, read up on the third place,
Yeah,
epigenetics, and I'm glad I
trauma
I
truth.
will find that link. I will find that study, about the eggs and the grandmother and
Yes.
like all that stuff. And I just it's just very, very interesting to go, COVID has altered our lives in so many imperceivable ways.
Mhm.
And the fact that I think we're not talking about it also, and this is and I've told you the storyline before, but I found it very interesting. I was at a work meeting and somebody said, I don't know how they were, I came in and Linda enters herself in the conversation and they're talking about the flu epidemic of the 1910s. And the person goes, our great grandparents or great great grandparents or grandparents never really talked about it. And I go, because they were traumatized. We just had an epidemic like 2 years ago. Are we talking about that? Because we're
Mm-mm.
not. Because we're not. And it's, again, the brain does what it does best. It tries to forget in order to survive and in order to move on. But that doesn't mean our lives haven't changed. And
Right.
we need to be okay with the fact that things have changed and we have to adapt and we have to change and we have to, in order to be interesting, not be blah with your life, not have this like ennui that I think a lot of people are feeling right now in many places. And I don't think it's just the US. I think kind of talk to everybody. Everybody's kind of like blah. Like, you know what it feels like? It feels like everybody's hungover. We're making really bad decisions. We're eating the McDonald's like the day after.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking from recent experience from 2 days
I
ago, but
love
that's fine.
McDonald's right now.
McDonald's would be so good right now. So good.
I never say
Anyway,
that, but I would love some McDonald's right now.
I love McDonald's. I love McDonald's. I don't know why we have so I am really into the fountain Diet Coke right now. I will give
Well,
my
fountain soda from McDonald's, everybody knows, is just fucking better, period.
better. There's like nothing better than a fountain
Nothing
like a fountain Diet Coke from McDonald's when you're like hungover as fuck.
else.
You go get your like egg McMuffin or egg bacon, whatever the fuck you're eating, and that fountain of life through that fucking yellow and red and white straw that they used to have.
Oh, yeah.
Just
RIP.
RIP. Um, but at least not the turtles, which apparently some studies are saying maybe we should have kept the plastic. It wouldn't have mattered. I don't know.
Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that. There's there's 9 rivers in the world that are the problem of plastics in the ocean, and they are in countries that don't give a shit about cleaning up plastics in the ocean, and guess what? None of them are in the United States. I'll just throw that out there. Clean up the oceans, y'all, but, like, your plastic straw ain't the problem.
It's not.
Give me a
But I
paper
think
straw, I'll throw it in the street. I'd rather just drink it without. Just don't give me a
just
straw
burn
at
it.
all.
Just burn
Just
it.
don't give me a
Burn it.
straw at all.
Don't give me a straw. Also,
I'm not saying I
fine
want the,
lines and
like,
wrinkles.
yeah, true. Listen, I love the turtles. I don't want the turtles or any ocean animals to hurt. I really don't. But, like, plastic straws ain't the fucking problem. We can get into that
Hey,
another time if we want.
there was a
But
reason
dear
why
God in
World War
heaven,
Z.
soapbox.
If you've ever
Soapbox.
read, if you ever read the book World War Z, by the way,
I love that book. The
the
Koreans were
zombie. Go ahead.
water zombies? No, thank
It
you.
was the water zombie that
No,
started it.
thank you.
It's probably from that river where the water plastics.
Yeah, yeah. The Koreans did it right, though. They just took everybody's teeth out. It was smart. That was, like, one of my favorite parts of the book. I was like,
Like
"Oh, why has no
that's
other zombie book thought of that one?"
that's called problem solving. That's what
Yeah,
that's called.
take your teeth
Like,
out.
yeah, we can't.
No one can bite you if they don't have
Nobody
teeth.
can bite you. Anyway, but yeah, I think, go to a movie by yourself.
Yeah.
That's great. Go find your
Find a
third
yoga
place.
studio. Go sit at a
Find a
coffee
yoga
shop.
Go sit at a coffee shop.
Take yourself
Go
out for a
just
drink.
take yourself out for a drink because you know what? You're fucking worth it. Like a Maybelline
Fucking
commercial.
right. If nothing else, like, you
If
don't even need to
nothing
go meet
else.
people. You're worth it.
Yeah.
You earned
It wa
it.
and
You
I you
survived
know
the
what?
day. You earned it.
Yes, and you survived COVID. You're here.
Oh,
Like, it
Jesus
didn't
Christ.
like, every time and I like to pretend again, as previously mentioned, I'm pretentious, and I like to think that I think about things a lot. I don't think about COVID a lot at all. Like, I don't think about that period of time, which is weird because I
I
had
do,
kids. I had
'cause
kids.
there are some things I'd like to go back to. Like, without the global pandemic, without people dying or people being sick part, of course, never again. But, like, there are some things during lockdown where I was kinda like, "Oh, this is kinda nice." All the birds
Yeah.
came back. There were birds I'd never seen in my life out in our front yard. Like, it was quiet. Like, the world kinda healed itself. The environment had, like, healed itself in a matter of months. There's a great
Yeah.
documentary on that, by the way.
Is
David
there?
Attenborough narrates it.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
then fuck, why haven't we seen a David Attenborough documentary so
Oh,
far,
yeah, we'll put him
actually?
on the list.
We're doing an arc though right now, so we're in an arc.
Yes.
And speaking of
Maybe
which,
as a palate cleanser, we will throw in some David Attenborough of it. But yes, it's a great segue. Linda, please.
I'm not that smart. Um, so just be clear that
Just almost spit water everywhere.
that was purely, that was purely, you know, I don't know how I did that. I don't even know how I did that. And for I don't remember the title of it. So maybe you do that later and
Sure.
until I look it up. Why
So if
can't
you
I
haven't
remember the
picked up on where we're going with this, Linda was talking about the arc that we're currently on with our The Doc Is In. So we just if you haven't listened, our last Doc Is In was about the Spider-Man at Paris, which is the biggest art heist in France. From that, we are going straight into the 4-part docuseries on Netflix called This Is a Robbery. It is about the world's largest art heist of the my favorite museum on the planet, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. It is unlike any museum you will ever go to in your life, and the Isabella Stewart Gardner is a fascinating woman. Um, Fucking socialite powerhouse, just like woman beyond her time, just awesome. Um, it happened on St. Patrick's Day in 1990, which is like the most Boston thing that could happen ever, other than the only other thing I say is more Boston than that is in the movie The Town, which I fucking love, is like only Bostonians would steal from the fucking Boston Red Sox, like only in Boston. Um, but Boston, I've lived there. I love you guys. Like, no hate except for the Red Sox because sorry,
also
I'm a Yankees fan. But
really,
anyway.
really hot men there?
Oh,
Surprise.
oh,
Like
yes. Oh,
like we're both
that
married, but
accent with a baseball cap on, like, forget
the
it. Forget
facial hair,
dead, dead. The
like
flannel with the flannel
with the
button down flannel shirt with a
and
puffy
like kind
vest,
of
like,
open, the puffy vest and
yeah, and the accent. You throwing a little accent
yeah,
right
yeah.
there. So
Keep on going.
love it.
We
Boston,
love
keep
it.
doing you because I
Keep
love
doing
you.
you.
We love you. Um, but yeah, this is a robbery. We will devote 2 episodes of The Doc Is In, and we will do
Back to
2 episodes
back.
each, back to back. So we will do 2 episodes each, so the next episode will be the first 2 episodes of This
Yep.
Is a Robbery. Linda, do you have those episode
I
names
do.
up in front of you?
I
Excellent.
do.
Oh,
So
available
while
on
while
Netflix.
because
On Netflix.
for whatever reason I can't remember this is a robbery. Maybe because, I don't want to be suspicious that I've never committed a robbery, but I really haven't. But I don't know. I don't know why I have like a mental block about that. But like Elaine said, it's called This Is a Robbery, and it is on Netflix. So if you have Netflix, you can go there. It was released in April of 2021, so fairly
Mhm,
recent. Each episode is about 50 to 57 minutes. So we will do the first two, and the first two are They Looked Like Cops, and the second one is Vipers in the Grass. And I'm really loving these titles; they're
mhm.
great.
Yeah.
So we will do the first two. And it has a very high Rotten Tomatoes rating of 83%. It says like between 81 and 83, but I think it went up to 83 the more people are reading it. It was directed by Colin Barnacle. And it is in English. So, like the other one we had was mostly in French subtitles, but
Mhm.
this one is in English. So,
Correct.
um, but very, very excited to listen to this one. I have not been to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, which is a travesty, really, because I
It's gonna
love me
make
a
you wanna
museum.
go even more after seeing this,
Well, then
truly.
I feel like we have to have
Field trip?
like a trip up there. Well, actually, I am going to Boston in a couple months. I might do that for
Done.
like
You
the
should go.
yeah. So
It's over by Northeastern University. It's absolutely, like,
like
fucking
not in Boston, but
best.
nearby.
Yeah, nearby. I mean, technically within Boston, but, like, it's not in Charlestown, it's not in, you
Harvard.
know.
I'm talking about Harvard.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, fuck. It's not in Cambridge. Fancy ass Cambridge.
Oh, God bless. Fancy ass Cambridge. But yeah, so we're really excited. And then for the next episode, we'll tell you the next two episodes and then we
Yeah,
will close it out. So again, you know, thanks so much for joining us. Always fun to talk about these topics with you and kind of work our way through these very interesting topics, I guess. Like
yeah,
it's just super interesting when you kind of delve into the smaller parts of it, how actually indelible and important these types of things are. So, again, thank you so much for joining us on Interesting as Fuck. And we look forward to having you on the dock as in. And Elaine, take us away.
stay interested.